So know that it'll be recording as of now. So let's go ahead and double check on this side to make sure that my app has not lied to me and that we are in fact live to the public. Looks like we are, and I'm going to just wait a minute for Facebook to alert some folks that we are on here, and then we can do some intro. So yeah, super excited. It's going to be a fun one. Okay. It looks like it's working just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Since we are about a couple minutes after 4 o'clock, I want to go ahead and take this time and reintroduce myself. I am Juliet Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to our next Town Hall broadcast. If you have tuned in the last several weeks, you're now aware that we've held these in partnership with a lot of our association partners statewide. And the purpose behind a lot of these industry town halls has been to try and educate you about how these industries have been impacted by COVID, what they've done to adapt to the situation, and kind of what they foresee moving forward. I think a lot of us are kind of staying at home and we're getting different news sources that really are focused on COVID, but they're not sharing a lot of boots on the ground on what's transpiring here locally across our state. So if it's your first time attending our industry town hall or any of our broadcasts, then you can find all of our previous recordings here on our Facebook page under the videos section. You'll be able to peruse them going back into the month of March. We have daily webinars that are geared to educate our businesses on ways they can adapt to the new line of work, from e-commerce and virtual meetings, all the way to now webinars that are focused on reopening. So legal implications of reopening your business and how to keep your employees healthy and safe. So a lot of great dialogue that we've had with experts that we've been able to bring, all the way to our elected officials. So Mondays, we have our mayor, Herb Atchison, that gives us updates from the city level. And generally on Fridays, we close out with school districts, county electeds, and state as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell on kind of how our videos have been run. Today, I'm delighted to have with us two associations. One is our Colorado Brewers Guild, and the second is the Colorado Hoteliers and Lodgers Association. And I hope I didn't butcher that too much. You guys can fix that when you take over. But the reason we selected these two is because they've been wildly impacted by COVID, and we just want to shed some light on that and show you kind of what they've done and how you can stay engaged and informed on what's going on with them. So thank you for already tuning in. For those of you that have already hopped on, if you hear something that's of interest or relevant that you didn't know and are just now gleaning, let us know that you have found this of value. We love kudos, we love flattery, so give us as much of that. And then more importantly, if you have any questions, type them into the comment section of this video broadcast. All of the questions we'll take up in between our speakers and then at the very end, so we can be able to get to everyone. So with that, I will turn this over to Shawnee. Shawnee is the CEO or Executive Director of the Colorado Brewers Guild.
Thank you, Juliet, and thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with everybody about what's happening with brewers around the state and how they've been impacted by COVID-19. A little bit about the Colorado Brewers Guild. So we are, like Juliet said, a trade association. We are a 501c6. That means that we're a membership-based organization. So breweries across the state are members of our guild. We've been around for 25 years. So this year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary. We're one of the oldest state guilds in the country, just behind California and Oregon. So been established for a long time. We do represent all of Colorado's independent craft breweries, and our mission is to promote, protect, and propel independent craft beer in Colorado. So we have over 420 craft breweries in Colorado. That ranks us number 2 in the country, behind California, which is a much larger state, and they have over 1,000 breweries now. So I don't think we'll ever be catching up to them, but it's pretty amazing that Colorado is number 2. Our breweries have a $3.3 billion economic impact in Colorado, and that makes us number one in economic impact per capita compared to other states for brewing. So we like to say that we are the state of craft beer. That's a tagline that we use at the Colorado Brewers Guild, and I truly believe that we are the state of craft beer. Those numbers prove it, but also just what our members do. We have members that are some of the largest and most established breweries to some of the smallest and newest. They're positioned all across the state. So we have breweries obviously on the Front Range, Western Slope, the mountains, down in Colorado Springs, Pueblo, etc. And they represent manufacturing breweries and brew pubs. So any place that actually brews beer, that's who we represent. Like I mentioned earlier, our mission is to protect, promote, and propel craft beer in Colorado. So the protection side is really around advocacy work that we do. We work with state legislators and state regulators on craft beer issues. So that's, that can be anything from what impacts them as a small business owner to specifically their abilities to manufacture beer or distribute that beer. So we are really there to ensure that they are able to do that well within the rules that are laid forth for them. We also do a lot of promotion. So we host multiple beer festivals throughout the year. Obviously, we are not hosting those right now, but that's a way for our members to showcase their products and engage with consumers in a fun and friendly way. We have Collaboration Fest, which we unfortunately had to cancel, which is normally in March. And that's one of our largest events where brewers get together and make a unique beer just for that event, which is a really fun way to show how collaboration works within this industry. We also do various marketing campaigns. Like I mentioned, we have the State of Craft Beer as our tagline. So we have a marketing campaign around that slogan. We have a little badge that we use that we promote. And we also do various different other marketing campaigns. We work with the state tourism office as well as local tourism offices to promote people to visit tap rooms and support local breweries when they are on vacation. We've also are the voice of the industry when we're talking to media. So if media has a question about what are great beers to take camping, they often turn to us for that, as well as situations like this where they're trying to gauge what's happening within the industry. The third pillar of our mission is that we propel, and that's really around the education that we do. So we host an annual conference and trade show every year for our members. And people of the public are also welcome to attend that. We also have a technical and education committee that really tries to provide resources to our members to increase their brewing education and make sure that they're brewing the best beer that they can. And then we do regular communications to our members on any changes to laws or regulations, industry updates, anything like that. So that's kind of the nitty gritty of what we do. We currently are a one staff organization, so I'm it right now. I've been with the Guild for about 5 years now in various different capacities. So I'm going to just jump right into how COVID has impacted us as an industry, our organization, and our members as well. I think everybody probably knows that statewide right now, breweries are closed for on-site consumption. So that happened pretty quickly when there was the increase in cases across Colorado. So breweries and restaurants were closed for on-site consumption. Due to our advocacy efforts, we were able to allow breweries to continue to be essential businesses for their manufacturing and distribution abilities. So that means they could still produce the beer and they could distribute that beer either through a distributor or self-distribution. And that distribution would go to liquor stores mostly, or grocery stores, as well as some draft accounts for restaurants. We were also able to secure the ability for breweries to sell to go out of their facilities. So you can currently right now go to any tap room that may be open. It's up to them if they want to, but and buy beer to go. So that would be a growler, a crowler, maybe a 6-pack or a 4-pack of beer to go. There's still no on-site consumption, but they are able to do that. We are also able to secure the ability to do delivery. So that means breweries now can deliver directly to consumers' homes. This is something that's temporary, and is not something that was allowable before, but we are really thrilled that we are able to work with Liquor Enforcement Division and the governor's office to be able to allow breweries to do this. Both the to-go and delivery have been lifesavers for many of these breweries right now that are trying to pay their bills and pay their employees. So we are excited about that. However, I would say also that even though they're able to do those essential services, beer sales are down dramatically, particularly if you look at draft sales. So along with breweries, restaurants obviously have been closed as well as bars. So all of those tap handles, whenever you order a pint of beer at a restaurant or at a bar or at a brewery, have pretty much gone down to zero right now. So that has been a substantial decrease. We have seen some increase in liquor store sales, although it's not completely offsetting that decrease. So overall, I think we're seeing an estimated decrease in sales around 20% throughout the industry. So it's pretty substantial. We are in alignment for the most part with the rest of the nation on those numbers. So we work with our national counterpart to compare those numbers. We've also seen that the majority of staff has been laid off or furloughed, not surprisingly, given that there are substantial decreases in sales. And some of those staff have been able to come back due to the PPP loans, but not all of them. And so that has been a huge hit to our breweries right now. And breweries are making decisions that are based off of what they are able to do and how much they're able to sell. With that, I would say we also do anticipate some closures, unfortunately, permanent closures of breweries. Nationally, I think we are actually in a better place than many of our counterparts when you look at other states. But the longer that they are closed, it's more likely that we'll see more permanent closures. And so, like I said, we are in a position where I think we'll see less closures percentage-wise than other states. And I really think that that's due to just craft beer being in Colorado DNA. I think that, Colorado is known for their craft beer. And so I think consumers are really out there trying to support these breweries. And it's been great to see how much people are supporting them. We are seeing the Brewers Association, which is our national counterpart, did do a study, a survey of members, and they found that if breweries are completely closed for 1 to 3 months, we may see up to 60% of them close. So it's pretty substantial numbers. It's a difficult number to deal with, but we are being optimistic with the PPP loans as well as the support that consumers are providing right now. A couple things that we've been working on differently right now is that for breweries, I would say breweries are shifting much more to packaged beer. So, and how I mentioned it earlier that draft beer sales are down. And so breweries that have never put beer into cans, they've only been a place where you go and buy a pint over the bar, are now moving towards putting beer in cans. It's a really interesting move, and it's been really a lifesaver for some of these breweries. So there's a couple different companies out there that do mobile canning. So they actually bring the equipment to the brewery and they set it up and they can can on site for them. So that's something that has been really helpful. And then those cans can be sold either through the tap room, through delivery, or through liquor stores and grocery stores. So yeah, that's been a big shift for our members for trying to figure out and navigate that facility. The other piece is around virtual events. So we've seen a lot of breweries host happy hours virtually, tastings virtually. They'll have live music, Q&A, anything like that. They're trying to continue to engage with the beer lovers and the beer consumers. The Colorado Brewers Guild actually hosted one as well. We celebrated our 25th birthday party, as we called it, and we hosted an all-day event which brought in pillars of the craft beer industry to talk about where they have been, where they're going, how the Colorado Brewers Guild started and how it's impacted them. It was a super fun day. We had folks from all across the state participating in that. And then the other thing, like I mentioned, delivery has been a huge shift for breweries right now, and they're really trying to figure out how to do it. So bear with some of your local breweries right now. They're not, this isn't something that's normal to their business model. So some of them are really trying to figure it out, and they may only deliver on certain days or certain hours. But you know that they're trying to get the beer out to you guys. So just check out their websites or their social media if you're interested in purchasing beer for delivery to see if it's available. One thing that we've been working on at the Colorado Brewers Guild, which I'm really excited about, is the Colorado Strong Initiative. And so this is something that we partnered with the Left Hand Foundation on. And it's a way for breweries the Left Hand Foundation created a recipe that all breweries can follow. They are providing all of the ingredients and the labels at no cost to the breweries. It's a pale ale, and 20% of the proceeds will go back to a fund that supports those that have been impacted by COVID-19. And so we have over 120 breweries now that are participating in this effort, which is more than a quarter of the breweries across the state are going to be participating in this. It's a really amazing show of support and strength of the craft brewers. We've seen some that have collaborated together to brew together, some that have taken the recipe and put their own unique twist on it. So we're really, really excited about it. And I feel like it's one of those amazing things to see that even though craft breweries are really struggling based off of the numbers I shared with you guys earlier, that they're still willing to step up and be able to donate back to their communities. I think that's one thing that makes craft beer so unique and special, is that they are really dedicated to their communities. And so that willingness to donate back that 20% has been really inspiring for us. So if anybody's listening and is interested, you can go to coloradostrongbeer.org and check it out. Breweries are starting to release those beers this week. And like I said, many of them have put their own spin on it. So I would encourage people to purchase at different locations so you can test them out separately. I think Juliet had also asked us to talk a little bit about the vision and where we see things going. I don't have a crystal ball, and I feel like I wish I did, because that would make things a lot easier for us and our members. But as I mentioned earlier, beer festivals are not currently happening right now. And that's something that we focused on a lot. But our breweries also do a lot of in-person events. And unfortunately, we don't foresee those happening right now. And we're hopeful that that could change in the future. But as of right now, there's no festivals or events happening, and that's unfortunate. That's something that's really great about this industry, is the community and coming together. So we will see how the future of events goes. We also, like I mentioned, unfortunately, will likely see some closures in the near future. I'm sure that that's the case for the hotels, restaurants, all small businesses that are struggling right now. It's a difficult time. So we've been doing what we can on our end, and we've been encouraging consumers to support their local craft breweries as much as they can. And I imagine, like I said, craft beer is in Colorado's DNA and will still be the state of craft beer after this, no matter what. But we'll see how that goes. And the final thing that I just, people ask a lot about reopening and how that will look and when is that going to happen. And right now, we're working with the governor's office as well as our state regulators, as well as CDPHE and the local counties to determine what would be the most safe time and approach. So we are not public health officials, but we're working with them on ways that breweries can be safe when it is time to open up. So it will likely have limited capacity for on-site consumption and some other restrictions, but we hope that they will be able to open in some capacity in the near future so people can go still enjoy a pint of beer across the bar. So Juliet, I hope that I answered all of your questions. I tried to get through them all. If there's any questions that you have or anybody from the audience, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shawnee. For those of you that have hopped on, we have two industry experts. One is our Colorado Brewers Guild. The second, that's still not gone yet, is our Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association. Both of them are going to share with us about COVID and how it's affected their industry, what things they've been able to do during this time, and looking ahead and moving forward. If you have a question that arises or something that comes to mind, even if you didn't hear the Brewers Guild and maybe you just tuned in, type in that question so we can get to it. But Shawnee, you shared some pretty drastic stats out there. 3.3 billion in economic impact from the brewers just across the state of Colorado. And then I think what was most fascinating is that when you referenced, the time period. So if these breweries are closed 1 to 3 months, the likelihood of them closing down, according to your national survey, is that 60%. So you're looking at a significant amount of them that could potentially be closing after this if it continues. I mean, right now we're already into almost the second month of this going through, and so another month and we're already looking at the industry falling by over half of the brewers that are across the state. We have one question that kind of came up, and this was kind of curiosity, I think, on one of the events that you had mentioned. So this comes from Wayne Anderson, and he's asking, how do you hold a virtual tasting?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a little feedback there. Sorry. That's a really good question, Wayne. So one way that our members have been doing this is encouraging people to go purchase some beer, and then they can walk them through the tasting notes, and have a conversation about how to taste that beer and what nuances are associated with it. So it's been a really interesting way to engage consumers where they can still consume in their living room, but drink along with the brewer or the owner of the brewery and talk about the hops that were involved and the malts that were involved and the different flavors that they're experiencing. And some will do side-by-side tastings of different types of beers as well. So it's an interesting approach, but it's a fun way for people to feel engaged with their local brewery through this process.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing a lot of creativity that's going on right now, and this is one of those. And Shawnee, we might come back to this, but I want you to kind of let this thought marinate. There's a lot of business groups around the area that are really advocating for statewide restaurants, brew pubs, for really our breweries to be allowed to sell alcohol and liquor and in the outdoor spaces. So as it currently stands, a lot of times they're not able to do that. There's that restriction, and especially with them remaining closed for a significant period of time. So I'd like to glean a little bit from your perspective on, is that something that you'd likely hear other your key partners or members that would be behind to try and really move the needle and allow for looser restriction is probably what the term would be for it. And we've already seen that a little bit with the fact that restaurants can now be delivering and adding the alcohol component, things that they weren't able to do before. But that outdoor selling, that's a huge component, the public space side of things.
Yeah, that's a good question that you brought up. So I think, From our perspective, yes. In general, we feel like that's a good approach, is to be able to loosen some of those restrictions, to be able to have consumption in outdoor spaces. I think it really depends on who owns that outdoor space and how it has been permitted and all of that. So there's a lot of nuances to it. So, moving into your parking lot may look a lot different than trying to move into a sidewalk space. So in general, yes, we are supportive of that effort. And I know the restaurants have been also pushing for that. And I think that's something that we're continuing to look at, but many of our breweries already have patios and they already have outdoor space. So it's proven that you can have outdoor consumption of alcohol. It just is a matter of how that would look. And it's often up to municipalities as well and how they would want to handle it. So we've been working on different levels for that effort. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is something that is important to breweries, as well as I know restaurants and brew pubs, for their potential to recover from this.
Absolutely. And this is really, I've been telling all of our associations as we have developed relationship, it doesn't end after this video broadcast. In fact, we'll end up tag teaming to move the needle on a lot of other things. So secretly, we will be working hopefully hand in hand to change some of that dialogue at our municipal level and some at the state for sure. Looks like we've got a couple of different folks that are on here. Hello, Ari and Wayne and Abby. And we also have Councillor DeMott, who's hopped on as well. So for those of you that are just tuning in, we just heard a wrap up from Shawnee from the Colorado Brewers Guild. If you have questions related to that, type those in so we can get back to it. Thank you, Shawnee. Please do not go anywhere. We are going to transition now to Tony and Amy. Tony is the board chair and president for the Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association. And then Amy is actually their CEO or executive director. So we have a PowerPoint that we'll go ahead and display, but I'll have Tony go ahead and kick us off.
Great. Yeah, welcome, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Yeah, I'm Tony Dunn, General Manager of the Sheraton in downtown Denver, and chair of the Colorado Hotel Lodging Association. I brought Amy Mayhew, our president and CEO, with us today. Amy's been very engaged, our association's been very engaged, and really in focusing on our reopening process and plan, working diligently. She's been in many meetings with the mayor's office, the governor's office, Colorado Tourism Association. We'll get to it a little bit later, but we absolutely have what we think is an incredible proposal to the governor on how we reopen our business. My hotel in particular is open. There's probably 4 or 5 hotels open in downtown Denver, to put in perspective. And you mentioned some stats. I think right now we're seeing about a loss of about, and I'll speak to my particular hotel, which is probably supports a lot of the data out there. This year, missing our budget by 70% revenue. And probably if you look at the measurement that we use in our industry of RevPAR, I think our industry is down anywhere between 85 to 95% revenue per available room. So in really rough shape. So most of the hotels that are open have a particular type of business. It's the airline crew, which and that type of base business, which, as you know, is also in big trouble as well. So we're hanging on to stay open. We're under renovation, so we have a unique situation where it was more beneficial for us to stay open than close. But that's where we are right now. If we can move to the next slide on the Rocky Mountain Lodging Report. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a very telling slide. So as all of you know, we were sitting here in March, and again, I'll use my hotel's example. Very much big convention hotel. March, typically our best months of the year are June and October, busy convention months. March for us was going to be the best group room month in history of the hotel. This is while we had 250 rooms under renovation. We were still going to exceed the most group rooms ever done in a month in this property. So we're off to a great start in the first couple of weeks of March, and then, as you can see, fell off drastically. So 38% occupancy as all of Colorado, and that was obviously being supported by probably 2 decent weeks of March. its current situation is much worse. If you're hearing hotels report occupancies, if they're not closed, they're typically reporting anywhere between 5 and 10% occupancy. Some of the airport hotels are reporting a little bit more than that, but again, in perspective, my hotel runs anywhere between 78 and 81% occupancy-ish. We're projecting, after having 2.5 months under our belt, probably a 25 to 30% annual occupancy. Next slide, please. So here's, again, more stats. The Oxford Economic Study, which was put on by the AHLA, we commissioned this study. It predicts that of the 51,200 employees in Colorado's hotel industry, 35,859, or 70%, will become unemployed due to COVID. In addition, the study predicts that 176,000 employees jobs related to our industry, indirect supply chain, et cetera, 79,000 will lose their jobs, about 45%. Again, in perspective, I oddly enough was on vacation prior to COVID and came back from my vacation around March 11th. And we, at the time, this particular hotel had to lay off 400 associates. Next slide, please. As we know, the state orders remain in effect. Safer at Home is going through May 26th. Closure of restaurants, theaters, gyms, casinos, and spas, as we know, through the 26th. Limited gatherings, which for a hotel my size that does meetings at between anywhere of 1,000 to 1,500 is kind of our bread and butter business, limited to no more than 10 people. Through the 26th. And of course, right now, delivery and takeout of alcohol through the 30th of May. Next slide, please. We're hearing from our customers that they want to get out and meet. They want to travel, they want to meet, whether it's leisure or conventions, but conventions probably thought differently than what they were. Recent poll put on said half of adults expect to stay in a hotel in the next 6 months. About 3 in 10 expect to do so in the next 3 months. 87% of consumers said they want a hotel and travel companies to share more information about how they're changing policies and operations as a result of COVID. All of our companies, big and small right now, are putting together their reopening protocols, whether it comes to how we meet, whether it's a social distancing as we plan a meeting or a wedding, our cleaning protocols. I was at a meeting on Tuesday at the Gaylord where we had a presentation for a number of suppliers talking about products that we'll probably be using going forward, on how we would disinfect rooms, disinfect our lobbies, our public space, and really where we see this probably in the next going for the next 6 to 18 months, and some of the processes probably are maintaining throughout. Adding it's required. It's what our customers are asking for. They want to feel safe when they put on a meeting. They want to feel safe in their hotels. They're asking what our hotels are doing. AHLA put out a plan. And right now, like I said, all our big brands and other brands are working on these. AHLA had a great plan, which is making some of our meeting planners much more comfortable about thinking of going forward with the meeting. I can speak on behalf of Marriott and the other couple of big brands. We think that their plans are going to be above AHLA, and again, make our customers feel more comfortable about traveling. Next slide, please. With Stay Safe, the hotel industry is enhancing our already rigorous standards to help create peace of mind for both employees and our guests. When travel resumes, hotels will be ready to safely welcome back our traveling public. As many hotels today are, our associates, if you walked in our hotel today, are wearing masks. We're taking temperatures of all our associates before and after their shift, and also ensuring that they don't have any symptoms prior to showing up. Prior to they clock in, then let us go through the protocol of asking the questions and getting their temperature checked. Obviously, our cleaning protocols have escalated. And again, like I said, probably in the next week, we'll have all the product on property for a new cleaning protocol that we'll move forward with. Anything from electrostatic cleansing of a room, UV equipment, and again, just enhanced and accelerated cleaning protocols. Governor created a emergency council economic stabilization growth, which from the hotel perspective. Amy is a member and working to see if we can get our proposal of reopening pushed through. We think it's sensible. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. It's cautious, but we do need to get people comfortable with meetings. Our challenge right now is we have meetings that are every time these dates get pushed back, it typically impacts our business 2 to 3 months from now. So we essentially have had every piece of group business in my hotel cancel June, July, obviously March, April, May, June, and now July. And now we're having customers talking about canceling August, September. And today we received some calls about groups looking at canceling in October. So our proposal is to get smaller meetings started or modify meetings, whether it's through spacing, 1,000-person meeting, maybe 300 on site, and maybe it's 300 virtually. And we probably guess that there's probably 300 that won't attend. So Amy is on that council and really supporting our industry, like I said, to get us reopened. And if we could move to the next slide, please. Again, our recommendation to the governor is reopen the state for business to resume as quickly as it is safely possible to do so. The hospitality industry is ready to open our doors and safely welcome guests back. Indemnification of tourism-related business to allow for accommodation of coronavirus patients during the crisis. As you may know, there are some hotels that are being used in almost like coronavirus, being contracted out for their rooms to house people to quarantine and what have you. And one of the sticking points was the indemnification of those properties. Support the tourism industry employees, as we talked about. Our associates have been brutally hurt through this, whether it's appropriate or not appropriate. Many of our associates have multiple jobs, and of course, most of those jobs have now been shut down. Deploy a full suite of strategies to protect businesses from collapse and support restoration of tourism and hospitality related activity and employment as rapidly as possible. Again, next slide, please. We lead collaboration with elected leaders across Colorado to develop clear, consistent messages for travelers and residents, sparking our recovery. I think Amy can probably talk about it a little bit more in depth, but what we're hearing as far as the state, we've heard an update that the state will probably in a deficit of about $3.4 billion by year end, and I think that number is continuing to grow, and again shows the need to get our business flowing again and people doing business. Funding the Colorado Tourism Office marketing budget to reignite the tourism economy as swiftly as possible. Again, huge concern here that the dollars that we have to market our state may get cut due to the large deficit we're expecting, and advocate for additional federal relief. Next slide, please. So in summary, this is essentially the very high level general we put in front of the governor. Essentially phase one, we focused on, not a specific number, not 10, 50, 250 people. We figured it's all different scale, different properties, and different venues. So our recommendation was to open based on fire code limitations in the meeting space, in your spaces. So 30% of the fire code occupancy. So like I said, a 1,000-person meeting that would be in my large ballroom maybe is now 300. And then, of course, as they break out into additional breakout rooms, we would modify those occupancies as well. Then move to a 50% of fire code, 75%, then 100%. And then that's essentially where we're at right now. I mean, it's really tough. We're seeing this getting pushed further and further into the back half of the year, which is concerning. I think we all thought this was going to be a 6 to 8 week problem, and now we're seeing it could be a full year problem for our industry. And we just need to get meetings going again, prove that we can manage them well, take care of our customers, make sure they feel safe, take care of our associates, and then prove that we can move to the next phase. Speaking on behalf of my hotel and our convention style hotels, we are missing our busiest season. September, October is our next busiest season. And if we are not in full capacity by then, I think that the numbers you're going to see are far worse than what I spoke of. I'm not sure, Amy, if you have any further color to add.
Don't, I think, obviously Tony is one of our big downtown hotels, but I think I can tell you that this has impacted all hotels of all sizes and shapes across the state. Many are closed. I believe we have a board of about 40 members. And of that, I believe we have 5 hoteliers who are actually working in properties that are running at this point, and open for business. So it's definitely an interesting moment. Happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
And again, you talked about recovery. If we're seeing any light, it's with our smaller limited service properties. And we think that truly is from the leisure perspective. Still need to go visit mother-in-law, what have you. So we're seeing that come back slightly. And I saw a survey the other day where people were saying that if they could travel, they'd feel more comfortable in a smaller property. I think it's just less volume where our position we've got lots of space to spread out into, but we're seeing a little bit a glimmer of hope coming back in the smaller limited service properties at this point.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful property, no doubt, out there. I've been to it numerous times. We've had Councillor Voles that's hopped on here, which is terrific. If you just hopped on to our broadcast, and it looks like we have several others that have as well. We have the Colorado Brewers Guild that's with us. Shawnee had shared initially some stats on the breweries, how they'll be affected from a 1 to 3 month ratio, and the percentage over 60%, the likelihood that would not reopen and be in business to survive thereafter. And then we had Tony just share from the Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association some stark numbers. I think a lot of us are not understanding to the fullest what's going on and how often people are planning. They're planning to trip, they're planning conferences. These groups are not just planning it for tomorrow or the day after. It's extended into months. And so when we look at a situation like we're in right now, to Tony's point, every week that's added on is a compound of another month. And so it's no longer next in June and July how their numbers are affected. It's moving into the fall. And to reiterate that, you shared over 85 to 90% of the revenue per room decrease that a lot of our hotels are seeing, and that's huge. And no doubt, and I hope you're okay with me sharing some of these stats later on our website so we can try and educate the public on this, and even some of the recommendations. You really touched on, as an industry, let us handle and take ownership of what we can put into place and the safety precautions that we can have so we can assess how to open up properly, because there's no one better than you that's running your business. So it looks like we have a question from Ari, and this comes to us, and it's related about, so are restaurants, breweries, hotels, are they all working together to help each other find solutions, to brainstorm ideas to survive COVID? And Ari, before I have either or both of our partners on here answer this question, know that a lot of us are intertwined in some way or another. You've heard the Colorado Tourism Office referenced a few times on this broadcast from our chamber, working directly with them since we handle visitor components to the hotels that are directly affiliated and partner with them, and the Brewers Guild. But if both of you want to take a stab at this, maybe as to how you've seen your industry work with others, or maybe some examples that might be out there.
Sure. Amy can have additional comment, but I think as a hotel industry, we're absolutely lined up and constantly in communication with a restaurant association and making sure that we're moving oftentimes in the same direction and we're not contradicting. As far as brewers, I drink a lot of beer. I would think that we're far more aligned with the restaurant association than we're at brewers. Of course, I look at what's in my hotel. We have a lease out yard house. It was exciting when I first got here to see 128 beers on tap and to see none of them running is sad. And to see, the creativity that these outlets are putting, they could have closed, probably would have been easier to close, trying to maintain their business. I know what they pay us in rent and the struggle they're going through to stay open, to be great partners for us to take care of the local customers as well as the few customers that are in my hotel. But yeah, they're truly trying to stay open, and we try to support them in any way we can. I'm not sure if there's any further comment from Amy.
Yeah, and I would just add that we know that until restaurants and attractions and things like that are open, people aren't really going to be excited about moving around the state and traveling in general. And so we've been very supportive of the Restaurant Association. I serve on their board and they serve on ours, just to make sure that that connection remains strong. But obviously, we're vested in making sure that they succeed and that the restaurants get opened as quickly as possible so that our guests have a place to go besides getting takeout to take back and eat in their rooms.
Yeah, I would say from our perspective, I think you hit it really well, Juliet, is that the tourism office is one of our central ways that we work together. So we work with the Colorado Tourism Office as well as these folks and the Restaurant Association and many other entities trying to have a consistent messaging around when there could be in-state and out-of-state tourism. And so that's something that we've been working on. We also work with other industry stakeholders, so the wineries, the distilleries, the cideries, all along that spectrum, as well as the Restaurant Association. We have a good relationship with them and the Tavern League as well. I think one example is that we were supportive of to-go and delivery for restaurants for beer. That helps our members be able to sell more beer, and it helps sustain those restaurants that we want them to be open when everything reopens because they sell our beer. So we definitely want to work with them to ensure that they're surviving this as well, so that there's more outlets for our members to sell their beer. So yeah, we've been in alignment with many of our industry partners.
So I'm going to throw us a curveball of negativity and hypothetical right now. And this is because sometimes a lot of what's going on in California, people look to and say, is this going to come over here in Colorado? And if you've recently read some of what's transpired in LA, I believe they've extended their stay at home to the end of July. If something, heaven forbid, and I'm knocking on wood, like that were to transpire or get mimicked here in Colorado, I already feel like we know the answer to this, but can you potentially give us an outline of what that would look like to not only your membership, just broadly your industry?
I think I commented earlier, I think that we're all at, well, I'm in my office currently, but we're all at home. I think we all want a different view outside of our window. So I think if we can get people traveling again, even if it's just regionally, we've had a lot of inquiries from large groups that felt that even if they had just a regional drive-in business, they could put on a convention. As I mentioned earlier, we started, it happened so quick in my hotel, after March 11th, March 12th, we were getting cancellations, by the hour of really big pieces of business. And as we continue to move these dates further into the future, we have as most of our hotels do, have contracted business with pretty tight contracts. And as we move these dates forward, it allows these customers to exercise those force majeures and to get out of their contract. And we don't want to have people meet unless we feel we can deliver a safe and a productive meeting. But as I said earlier, when we were losing business in March, we were seeing April and May start to cancel. And then we moved the dates back. We saw May, June, July. Last week, we had a bunch of business in July. It all canceled in one day. It was 4 different conferences. Like I said, we're now seeing August, September. I think we're typically seeing 3-4 months into the future. So there is a fear that this could be right through to year end from our industry.
Absolutely. And it is something that I've heard from the restaurants lens as well. We have a few hotels up in this area that, as soon as this transpired, their extended stay options just could not. They closed those immediately and have been operating from their standard room rentals as well. Shawnee, do you want to go ahead and touch on this as well?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned earlier about beer festivals and events. I think that, like Tony mentioned, we anticipate that those may not happen through the end of the year. We are not sure, but we're trying to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. And I think that that's going to be a huge hurdle for some of our breweries as well as our organization too. Those are, a big part of our budget. And so that's been difficult to manage. But I think if we start to see it being pushed out more and more, it's just going to be harder and harder for these small breweries to reopen. I think, what we've been seeing in Colorado, at least for restaurants and bars and breweries, is that counties can apply for those variances. And so even if there is a statewide extension on the safer at home order, there are many counties out there that I feel like they're in a place that they feel confident that they could reopen in some capacity. And so we're working at that level, and hopefully that helps some of those smaller businesses to be able to survive this. And we'll see what happens also federally, if there's any more relief. That I think that would be really helpful for some of our small businesses as they try and weather this the longer it goes on. So I think our stats that I shared earlier were pretty profound, along with what Tony has shared, that the longer this goes on, it's just going to be harder and harder. But we also want to respect the fact that we want to open when it's safe to do so.
Absolutely. And as you shared, Shawnee, Douglas County, I think right now is applying for a variance. We've had a few others that are moving forward so that they're not in a predicament a little bit further down the road. I have Ari came back, and she's looking forward to what you all come back with in terms of creative solutions. Is there any way the community can be supportive of your industries at this time? Before I have you to answer this, I always have to give my 2 cents. So, Ari, my comment to you will be that us as consumers need to empower our businesses to be able to make the choices that they see fit and put in the precautions that they would like so they can survive. And I think our biggest hurdle right now is our fear has been driving a lot of what's going on, rightfully so. There's thousands that have been affected by this, but it's become to the point where they're not even able to think creatively of solutions because those solutions are not being allowed to be heard or brought forward at the table, or where they are, they're not necessarily being approved. So I'll turn this over to Tony and Shawnee to address this as well.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier. I think you're going to see our industry certainly step up. And I said, if you look, the AHLA's recommendations of how we operate are great. And I think our brands are going to go well above that. We're in the industry to take care of customers and our associates. So we're going to make sure that if we're going to commit to something, we're not going to take risks, certainly in the early days. And that's why our position is let us get some meetings going. We're going to work as hard as we can as the industry and share best practices to see how we can deliver on these. And once that feedback gets out there that someone had a great meeting, it was different. Maybe it wasn't 1,000 people, maybe it was 250 on site, and we didn't have an opening reception, but we had 250, 300 people dial in and virtually attend. And again, as I said, there's going to be those people who are just not comfortable traveling in the next little while. So you'll see some attrition there as well. I think once we get those meetings going, and our customers are saying, we want to come meet, but when we're told you can't meet for more than 10, more than 250, it's a non-starter. So that's why we've put that percentage formula together to get back open. All the brands are coming out with phenomenal plans. We've seen a highlight of what our company's coming out with. If you've seen, Mr. Marriott came out with a video the other day, and he's made incredible commitments. And again, this is going to change how we do business. And I think that, some of it will probably go on and be standard operating practices going forward. Some may be 6 months to a year. It's not a bad thing. I can't see how it could be a bad thing, taking care of your customers and your associates, cleaning more, being more vigilant. So we talked about, groups canceling in the fall. We're seeing groups in Q1 now, are concerned about coming. And they may come and move their group from Q1 to Q4, and they just want to put a gap in between them and COVID as a comfort. Again, negative to that is, or positive to that, we keep them in the year. Negative is that we are not bringing our employees back for, probably in Q2, Q3 of next year. I'm not sure, Amy, you have any other thoughts?
No.
I think from the brewery's perspective, having support from the community is really about going out and supporting those local breweries. Like I said, they're allowed to do takeout and delivery, to go sales. So just, if there's a place that you want to make sure that you can go back to, go and buy a beer from them, because that will just help them in the long run. I think also, as you mentioned before too, is that as things do reopen, just remember that breweries and all the small businesses are trying to do the best they can to provide a safe environment for their employees, their customers as well. And so just, be respectful of the policies that they've put into place, because they're there to ensure that their staff and you are safe. And so that's one thing that I would say as we move forward, is don't forget that that's, like Tony said, is that they're trying to be creative, but they're also trying to be helpful. And so those are my 2 points, is basically go out and support breweries, and don't forget to respect their positions on some of these items.
And timing couldn't have been worse for this property. We were purchased 2 years ago and just entered $100 million renovation. So, but you know what? We're with the rebranding of Sheraton and this property, really focused on local, and I think you're seeing that. I think you're going to see that. We're doing virtual tours. People want to come see the property. The renovation is 3/4 done. We're booking business type of hotel. We are 21 through 26, 27. So they want to see the property and can't. So we're doing virtual tours. We're doing virtual beer tastings. We're doing virtual wine happy hours with our customers, where we take them through a virtual tour. Obviously have a glass of wine or some beer. But I think what you're really going to see is people really latching on to local and really supporting local more than they ever have.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Tony. In terms of any time there is that larger natural disaster situation that's as profound as this, we do start seeing that the love for local, and people are coming back to support their very own and in their backyard and across the state. And I hope that continues through. My biggest, I wake up every day just to COVID thinking about you guys just surviving to where they can continue to support you and stay local. So I just want to go ahead and close it out. We're almost to the 1 hour mark. If you end up watching this video on replay, give us a hashtag replay. You think of any questions, drop those in the question section of this video broadcast, and I'll be sure to direct it to our 2 experts that are with us today. Again, we had the Colorado Brewers Guild and the Colorado Hotel and Lodging Association. Thank you, both of you, for taking the time out of your afternoon to blindly sign up with me on this town hall. I know I didn't give much detail, but I asked you, and you were more than willing to share kind of how your industry's been impacted and to spread the message. And I think we need to do more of that. When there's a lot of communication that's going out to our public, they need to listen to what's right beside them more than even the national front. So this is a lot of the reasoning behind why we do these broadcasts. I want to thank you again, all 3 of you, for chiming in with us. For everybody that's tuned in, thank you for taking the afternoon to spend with us. We'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're actually going to, instead of one of our electeds, we're going to be having a contactless payments discussion. As a lot of our businesses are reopening, we heard issues with the legality behind it, keeping employees healthy and safe. And so we brought to you the different testing options. We had an attorney this week as well talk to you about the legal implications of reopening. And now we'll be talking about how do you condition in that contactless payments so you can conduct business healthy and safe for all. But please take the time to support your area businesses, support our brewers, support our hotels. If you're thinking of staying, or if you have family that's thinking of staying sometime in the future, you could still book from now. I know you can, because I've done it before. And the hope is that as we reopen up, we'll have more and more people that are reinvesting into our community. I just got off of a phone call. I think it was probably about half an hour before this broadcast, and it was someone who's coming out to get married in August. And they're looking for, fun things to do outdoors, and travel and tourism is still going to keep picking back up. So there's hope that's out there. I don't want to end on too much of a negative note, but I loved that we shared facts and stats with everybody so that you understand the industry and can help advocate and cheerlead for why we need to be looking at ways that we can continue to operate business and open back up in a safe and healthy practical approach. So thank you again to everybody. Have a terrific afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.